Alhamdulillah.
Ya, itu pun cuma more of a precautionary measure. We were negative anyway when we tested.
Ya, okay.
But we rather still confined so that we're not at risk at anybody else lah.
Yes, betul. Prof dah try slide dah tadi?
Saya dah hantar kat Dr. Mimi. I think better let him
Okay.
Kalau
Dr. Hamimi nak try slide ke?
Dia dah ada slide tapi Prof kata Prof nak kawal sendiri.
You buat lebih better senang.
Boleh buat
Boleh lah.
Okay,
sama je.
Alright.
Tak banyak menung 14 slide. Itu pun cuma more of a precautionary measure. We were negative anyway. We tested.
Alhamdulillah.
We rather still confined so that we're not at risk at anybody else lah.
Yes, betul.
Keluar 2 kali
Prof dah try slide dah tadi?
Saya pun nak tanya soalan sama.
Awak keluar 2 kali sih.
Dr. Hamimi nak try slide.
Dia dah share slide. Biar saya yang kawal lah. Saya akan share slide. Boleh buat
Boleh lah.
Prof yang buat.
Sekarang ni suara Prof ada 2 kali. Kenapa ya? Kat mana ni?
14 slide. Itu cuma more of a precautionary measure. We were negative anyway. We tested.
Alhamdulillah.
We rather still confined so that we're not at risk at anybody else.
Okay, so Prof yang share.
You share lah senang. You control on your side. Kalau saya kadang nanti adalah benda yang tak diingini berlaku. I have a very bad experience with sharing slide.
Okay. Problem.
Start ke?
Lagi 2 minit, Prof.
You saw the slide, okay ke?
Okay. Betul okay lah.
Macam, yalah, I think I will elaborate on the language side later lah.
Yeah.
Tapi what do you think from the language perspective tu, what comes to your mind actually?
I think actually many people, okay, they leverage on technology to learn English, to teach English, to acquire the knowledge kan. Tapi kadang-kadang dia punya percentage tu tertinggi sedikit. Maksudnya nanti konten dia tertinggal ke belakang. Teknologi tu dia bila berbual, bila ada webinar pun cerita banyak teknologi apa nak pakai, tetapi the 4 skills of the language, the listening, speaking, yang tu kadang-kadang dipinggirkan dah. So tak capai
I deliberately left it as a language perspective without putting language in inverted commas.
Okay.
My take is looking at language in the broader sense. Maknanya all sorts of language, including sign language, not just English per se. It's any communicative medium that can be called language lah. Morse code pun language juga kan. It's a so I'm looking at it from that perspective. Tapi yang ni concentrate more on the student. Tapi I will make that point that everybody look at in the broader. Braille is a language for the blind. Kan apa ni sign language is for the deaf and so mana language in the broader sense and not just spoken modality and all that. Sajalah saya tak letak input language inverted comma tu, bagi trick sikit. Ada people expand the mind in terms of the language lah. Boleh lah, 45 minit je boleh je. Tak ada lama sangat. Kita ada chat box ke?
Buat masa ni chat pun ada, nanti saya akan baca Prof. Kalau ada yang ni juga kita allow them to open their mic on lah, switch on their mic.
Kalau kita address the question pun tak apa, tak payah mic on, tak apa.
Okay, kalau Prof if you allow me then they can
interject. You ada control kan? No, kita tak mau nanti kalau dia cakap it becomes long. Kalau kita respond to any appropriately placed question, kita respond dan kita carry on, tak payah makan masa banyak sangat.
Okay Prof. Saya ikut Prof je. Prof macam time itu saya follow je.
No time. Kalau kita ada extra time, then we can do a little bit more discussion tu je.
Okay, baik.
InsyaAllah. So, apa kan? Kemasukan sibuk lah.
Dah habis Prof. Dah Iwan habis lah.
Itulah. Still staff work from home ke?
Campur-campur, Prof.
Campur eh?
Hmm.
Okay.
Sebab kadang some of them decided to be in the office, tapi the class is still in online kan. So what for?
Okay. Itulah.
Dr. Hamid ni, participant semua dah ada kat dalam ni. Sebab
Alright.
kita dah tutup breakout room. So kita boleh dah mula.
Okay. Saya akan bacakan dulu, kemudian nanti baru saya akan share slide.
Okay, up to you.
Right.
You're the boss. You're the controller.
Okay, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil mursalin sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi washabbihi ajmain. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli, amma ba'd. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to all the participants and administration and committee for iLEC 2021. We would like to welcome all of you. Ahlan wa sahlan. So it's 11:30 already AM in the morning. So we are this is the time for us to lend our ears to our second keynote session, our second keynote presenter. Okay, I think most of you already know a little bit about Professor ROZHAN IDRUS. You can Google his name. He is everywhere. His digital footprints is everywhere. But please kindly allow me to read a little bit about his brief biodata. Professor ROZHAN IDRUS is a professor of Open and Distant Learning, or ODL, and Technology, with more than 35 years of international experience as an e-learning technologist, an analyst, consultant, presenter, and workshop facilitator. He is currently a research fellow in the University Science Islam Malaysia, USIM, and was the e-learning chair in the Open University Malaysia, or OUM, from 1st of October 2019 up to 30th of September 2020. He has presented 52 keynote addresses in 24 different countries and has published more than 200 publications in international citation index journals, books, and handbook chapters. And he also introduced the terms technology to the world in 2005. So, Assalamualaikum, Prof.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
How are you? Kaifa haluka?
Alhamdulillah. Shukran.
Okay, so let me share the screen. Right, so without further ado, Professor ROZHAN IDRUS, the floor is all yours.
Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi washabihi ajma'in. You can see my face or not? Just a slide. Okay. Anyway, just my sincere appreciation to the organizing committee for still remembering me. I'm already retired for 2 years, but I think I still have a lot of things to share, especially in this COVID era. I'm not sure whether era is the right word, but COVID is kind of going to be with us for quite a long time. So we have to still do our SOP. I'm not sure whether we should be wearing masks until the day we die. I hope not. But okay. So thank you for this opportunity. I have given this title, Personalization in Post-COVID Education, a Language Perspective. I was just chatting with Dr. Hamimi just now. I deliberately left a language perspective like that. I was supposed to put a quotation on the language perspective, because I'm not sure what comes to your mind when you look at the title, a language perspective. Maybe you're looking only from your own perspective of a teacher, language in your teaching. But I would like you to expand your thoughts to the language in the broader sense. Yeah, anything that can be deemed a communicative mechanism. Morse code can be a language. Yeah, Braille is a language for the blind. Sign language is a sign language for a language for those deaf people and people who cannot speak. You know, so I find this something interesting. Even dogs can learn language. You know, if you train a dog in the UK and you import the dog to Malaysia, I don't think it can understand Malay instruction because it's trained in English. So you know, language. Even traffic lights, traffic signs are language, non-communicable that you can see when you drive, that transmits instruction, what to do, what not to do. And so that is in effect also a language. So I'm looking at language. I would like you to look at language in its broader sense. So maybe it will give you some idea, maybe for whatever content you have, you can prepare the content in Braille, you can prepare for me some content for in sign language that can be beneficial to people who are challenged. So at least you can share your knowledge to the blind people, to the deaf people, not just in the classroom of your lectures. Okay, so look at this in the broader sense of language perspective. But for now, I'm kind of focusing in terms of students, and what I see is kind of a very sad. No, not sad. Something which has emerged because of COVID. Something kind of insidiously sleeping subconsciously, and then now it has surfaced, and we have to take heed of this whole situation. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so I would say that COVID is a game changer, you know, and but in a sense, I would say that Allah never sent anything down without a purpose. There is a reason why COVID is here. So let's look at it from the most positive perspective, because like we say, nothing comes to us without any hikmah, without any reason. There is a reason. But even the Guardian says that COVID-19 is our best chance to change universities for good, for good. So it is an opportunity, because COVID is not going to go away yet. It will not go away ever. It will be with us, but it will be perhaps just like the flu virus. You know, you can still contract COVID if you are not careful. If you think COVID is your friend, they are friend in a way, but in a friend that can forces you to do certain mannerism. So the classroom that we see now, in like the fill up classroom, and even our classroom in universities are no longer what it can be. Even now, even the schools have very different outlook. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is very small. You may not be able to read it, but I would like, this is kind of a summary of the 3 big points that I would like to elaborate in a while. One is the scenario for learning facilitation. Don't worry about it. It has a separate slide afterwards. Okay, learning scenario facilitation. Next is the learning facilitation itself. The green header is learner assumptions. Okay, so these are the 3 mechanisms that is unraveled or dismantled or deconstructed by COVID. I will elaborate. Okay, next. Dr. Hamimi, can you tell the guests if they have if the chat is open, if they have any question, they can type in the chat, and you will probably see if there's anything appropriate that can be addressed as we go along. If not, we can wait for the discussion towards the end.
Okay, Prof.
All right. Okay. Is this the next slide? Okay. Okay. So learning for scenario for learning facilitation. Okay. Even your I don't want to talk about framework. It will probably sound too complicated, but it's actually a framework. I mean, we have a different framework. When we are in campus, we are in this quadrant of same place and same time. So that is, I would call, the on-campus framework. Okay, so we have we are familiar with classroom teaching, face-to-face tutorial, laboratories. We go to the computer lab. We can use the library. We have study areas. We have cafes, and a lot of things from the teaching standpoint also is subsumed in the residentialness of the learners. Okay, that one is but once students are sent home, They are no longer in the same place at the same time, but they can be in probably 3 different other quadrants at some time in time. Okay, the most obvious one would be different place, different time, because they are at home. Okay, unless you force them to be in an online lecture, they will be in the same place, but they will be in the other quadrant, which is a same place but different time. No, same time but different place. Yeah, like we are now. We are in the same time, but we are in a different place, like teleconference, telephone tutorial, online lectures, Skype, blah, blah, blah. So this is another possibility. The other possibility, we can be in the same place but a different time. Like if they go to a library, if they go to a resource center, the place is the same, but the time, or like a LMS repository, they all go to the same place, but they all go at a different time, provided they have internet connection. If you don't have internet connection, nothing to go, nowhere to go to. So you the same place, same time have now taken 3 different facets that has to be facilitated by us. Okay, this is what COVID has done. COVID has I like to use this kind of billiard ball or snooker ball concept, where initially you have all the balls in the frame, yeah, and suddenly when you are hit with the COVID white ball, everything in the frame is scattered. Is scattered all over. So this now is the same place, same time, has scattered to be 3 different more paradigms, like they can be in the same time, different place, different times, same place. And the most of us now, if the learners are at home, they are in the different place and different time. So when you actually teach and when they actually study, is now in the 4th quadrant of different place, different time. Unless, like I said, you force them to be in an online lecture, then they will be in the same time but different place. But for those learners who might not have connectivity, then they will be in the 4th quadrant of different place, different time. They may have to go to a cyber cafe, they may have to go to a friend's house at a different time. So when you send the notes for teaching, when the online lecture happens, they will not be there. They will only access the content in a different time, in a different way, because they have no way to access it from home because of maybe internet connectivity and all that. So this is very big in terms of language, because how you teach in class and how you teach when they are at home has now come very different. The communicative language is going to be different, because the students are no longer in front of you for you to be able to get any body language or facial expression, or the student do not have an opportunity to ask you question. You don't even know whether they understand or not. So now you have to take into account that in terms of how you communicate with them. So language comes into play in a very big way. If you don't write it very clearly, it can be misunderstood. If you write it in a very ambiguous manner, it can be misconstrued. So so this is a very important language perspective. Only for this learning facilitation, we have 2 more big items to look at. So, okay, Dr. Mimi, am I going too fast or are we okay?
Alhamdulillah, you are doing good.
Okay, good. So, okay, anything from you, if you can follow the drift of this?
I think I can still follow the wheel.
Okay. Next slide, please. Next slide. This is very interesting. You may think you are in a face-to-face campus, but I want to ask you, have you experienced this even when you were on campus? Dr. Hamimi talk about buffet approach. I talk about buffet learning. We have face-to-face learning. Yes, that is a no-brainer. But even when you were on campus, there was also elements of blended learning. Yeah, there was also augmented learning when you were on campus, online learning, e-learning when you were using your repository, LMS, using your MOOCs and OER. Then you also have distance learning. Students learn when they are kind of separated from when they're at home, or they go back from holiday, they do their homework and accessing the network. That's distance learning. Okay, the use of mobile phones constitute mobile learning. Flexibility of time in terms of practices is termed as flexible learning, and then open learning, where you can ask students to have a kind of open book exam or open assignment. So actually, all these things exist even when you were on campus. Maybe you didn't realize it, but okay. Now, my take is this: since the students are now at home, the first element is gone. The face-to-face learning is gone. It's not, well, I mean, well, we can consider online as face-to-face, but let's take this face-to-face as the on-campus face-to-face. So if you look at what do you call this? Equalizer, equalizer, if you have your radio, during my time, equalizer is very important, very popular, when you can adjust the bass, the treble, the tone, and you can even switch the speaker back front. So if you look at this, all these elements, this is just an example. This is not exhaustive, this is suggestive. If you have more learning, you can put it there, don't worry about it. If you look at it from that standpoint, if you take the element of face-to-face out, other elements must come into play. Just like you have to rebalance the whole educational scenario so maybe because face-to-face has gone down very, very low, the world is scrambling to online learning. Online learning goes up big time. Although I cannot understand why, because in spite of the fact that we know some students have no access, you still want to kind of do online learning. So maybe elements of distance learning might come in as well, in a slightly lesser big way, but also a big way, where you have to leverage on some printed modules as a safety net for the students have no access to the internet. Yeah, maybe mobile learning comes into play in a bigger way, because almost all students have mobile phones. Yeah, but the design must be a little different, so that you're not overloading content that you send to the mobile, so it can be accessible to the mobile. And language wise, can you imagine a language that you need to use in terms of in mobile? You cannot send them pages and pages of text. You have to rearrange the lingo or the design for maybe short stints. Yeah, nuggets, they call it nuggets, or chunks of information. Yeah, even in online learning, although you may dump your PowerPoint, you cannot dump your same PowerPoint that you presented in class. Because in class, you were there to explain the PowerPoints, and in class, the students were able to ask questions. Okay, you can do a discussion, but if you just upload your PowerPoint in online repository, that's not enough. Language-wise or teaching-wise, it has to be reorganized there, where communication and the teachability elements come into play, because a lot of things that happen in the face-to-face session in the classroom is no longer there. So this is what I would say. In a way, I think it's very exploratory, it's very challenging, very interesting, and that COVID has presented to us in a way that you can expand your expertise, your skill, your knowledge transmission in many different ways, in an augmented learning style, in an e-learning style, in a mobile learning style, in a distance learning style, and you're not just confined to your 10-year-old notes that you use in your face-to-face teaching. If you, I don't mean to accuse anybody, but I think this is common practice, that unless there's a reason, I don't think you explore any kind of different way of teaching, except for the same way that you teach the same course. Maybe you add a few more questions as you go along. But I will look at this as an opportunity to address the unraveling, the deconstruction that COVID has presented. In a way, it's good. Because you really let you explore all sorts of language elements from all these various learning paradigm that is presented in front of you. Okay, next slide. Okay, next, is about facilitation. Facilitation is this is the crux of the matter. It's a technique used by trainers to help learners acquire, retain, apply knowledge and skills. So we, technically speaking, in the classroom, we are facilitating for the learning of the learners. And I dare argue that the learners themselves are also facilitating for us in the design of our content. Once we know the learners, this is a big point. Do you know your learners? Because once you know the makeup of the class, then only you will know how to facilitate, what to facilitate. This is a big argument that I've been talking about for the last 30 years. Did you profile your class? If you did not profile your class, who are you preparing your lesson for? You may have done it, you may not have done it, but this is always the point, because we have to run away from the no, I'm jumping the gun. I'll say this in the next segment. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this facilitation is defined as system that will facilitate response, typo error to the learning needs of an individual learner. Okay, this is across the board. This is the same whether you're talking face-to-face or any learning strategy. This is the same. Number one are the learning strategies. Yeah, what are the learning strategies that you can use in face-to-face teaching? What are the learning strategies you can use in online learning? What are the learning strategies you can use in mobile learning? So this is, I don't know how you can facilitate your course, but number one is learning strategies. Okay, now you're on campus, fine. You're confined to learning strategies. Now you're not on campus anymore. So what learning strategy are you going to adopt in the online format? In the mobile format? Okay, so this is one. Number two is to the learner progress feedback. We need to give feedback to the learners. On campus, it's very easy. You can give examples, send it in LMS, you can write a work example, put it in notice board, you can even come to class and distribute a paper. Now they are no longer on campus. So how are you going to facilitate for the learner feedback progress, or either synchronously or asynchronously? So this is another. This is a big issue, and language plays a problem, plays a big issue, because at any first instance, the first thing that will be faced by the learner is a reading test. It's not a reading test, but what you give to them, it has to be read. Even if you buy an equipment, you get a whole lot of instruction in many languages. Sometimes you can even understand the instruction if it's badly written. Especially assembling things from IKEA or whatever, you know, the instruction and the language must be very clear. If not, you have no idea what to do. Contracts, language, sometimes people don't understand how it maybe it was deliberately written in a way that you cannot understand the contract, but its language plays a major role. Okay, the other facilitation is contact between learner and human support. That you are the teacher, the tutor are there but no longer there. Supplementary learning resources, notes, guides, manuals, non-printed material that were available on campus are no longer available. Contact between learners, they are separated in their own homes, and access to support structures, library, study area, educational media, network, and so forth, which were available on campus, which are no longer available to the students now. So how do you address this learning facilitation in this COVID state? Okay, like I said, language play a major role. Like, you know, how to read, as much as I say how to reach the blind, go to Braille. But so now, in terms of a language perspective, how do you address all these issues? I have more questions than answers, because it has been disconstructed. We have to rethink supplementary learning resources. You know, how do you do that to learners who are now separated? That's why when you are teaching in distance or open learning courses, the word didactic comes into play in a big way. You know, didactic. I think that I'm not going to talk about didactic. You know more about didactic than me, but because I was in distance learning, we have to write it in a didactic manner, so that you are writing in a way that you are actually talking to the learners. So when the learners are reading, It's like you are talking to them, and we call the modules like a teacher in print. Yeah. Okay. So this is the this is the learning part. So in a way, when the learners are not at home, if you ask me, we have already conformed to definition of distance learning. Because the learner is separated in time and space in the educational transition of a content. So the face-to-face learner has now become a distance learner. So whatever content you may have in the face-to-face context cannot be given wholesale in that context, because the students are no longer in front of you. You can't see them, they can't see you, they can't ask questions, you can't answer questions. So there has to be a lot of things that needs to be done to bridge this gap, so that when they are at home, what happens if they need to ask a question? What happens if they don't understand a certain part? So it's just like, I like to use this example, like Sheikh Muzaffar. You know, when Sheikh Muzaffar went up to the space, he has to be ready with any subsequent needs. He may have to bawa his pelekat, go up there, because you cannot say, I left something behind, I want to go back. No, cannot. That cannot happen. So now we have to also think from that standpoint, the separation of the learner, how to communicate, the language of communication, so it has become very clear, very detailed. I like to give this very silly example. I would say, Miss X was lying naked on the beach. General, what comes to your mind? Oh, I'm sure. But if I add one information, I will say Miss X, 3 was naked on the beach. So it just shows that a child of 3-year-old was on the beach. But if I say Miss X, 23 was naked on the beach, it gives you a different picture altogether, you know, well, just by one figure. And if you say Miss X, 103, I don't think you're going to be bothered. So clarity and detail of information is very important, especially when you are not there to explain. And you know, this is why, to me, language plays a tremendous crazy role. You know. Okay, next slide. Yeah, because in context, even if we are on campus, all the more reason now we are no longer on campus. We are no longer the only source of knowledge, but even on campus, the students have the luxury of going anywhere. They can go to the internet, they can even find the PowerPoint that you took from somebody else to teach them. Learning is now 24/7. You can teach anyone, anytime, anywhere, any size. You know, we now talk about co-learning, where we ask students, we ask students to search in content first, ask students to co-create. They can already produce some material for us. We're talking about learner competencies. And to me, I think COVID is not a stumbling block, but it's an opportunity to innovate. Even from the language standpoint, because it's a communication element. So, you know, like if you write something interesting, it can be translated to so many different languages. You know, it's not because COVID affects the whole world, not only Malaysia. So everybody is the same predicament. You know, so language cannot be shared, content cannot be shared in a big way. Whatever interesting, your award winning, whatever can be translated into different language, can be benefited by all who do. All you need to do is perhaps post it online. We are going to assume everybody's got online, or we can have other mechanism that you can burn a CD and send to them, like you buy a movie. You know, there's so many ways to do it. This gives you opportunities to innovate. I don't even look at it as a stumbling block at all. I think it's opening so many doors, allowing people to do so many new things, explore your mind in terms of what you teach, how you write, what you produce, the content delivery, blah blah blah. Oh, it's crazy. I'm retired, but I can talk about it. I let you do all this, all the hard work. I've done all this. Okay. Any question? Tara, those questions. We can continue. Ready to talk. Yeah, okay. I think okay. This is also very interesting. I say to you, I mean not to accuse you, but I think we are guilty of treating our class as one. I always ask, when you teach, when you go to lecture, who do you teach? Anybody want to answer? I mean, maybe the moderator can answer that. I think he will regret being the moderator. Dr. Amin, if you go to your lecture, who do you teach? Trick question.
Learners, Prof. Various kind of learners.
Okay, you're clever, clever. You such that. You said the right thing, but you also said the wrong thing. You correct. Various type of learners, but when you went to class, did you prepare your content for various type of learners? No.
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Okay, I know you, so I know. I think your answer is correct. No, I mean this is how I see it. Okay, it can be right, it can be wrong, but this is my opinion. When we go to the lecture, we teach the class. We teach the class. We got a class list. We got class grade. We got class average. We got the top student in the class. We got the bottom student in the class. So we are stuck with a class paradigm. And and there are so many things that is hidden in class, subsumed in class. Number one, we make so many assumptions that's not true. We say if you just go to class and teach the class, you are assuming that the students all have the same academic background. This is not true. Correct? Obviously, in class, you can't see it. They may be kind of talking to your friends, asking their friends. This may be more transparent when you get your exam results. Why somebody failed? Why somebody failed my class? Oh my God. You know? And we also assume that the student learn at the same rate, which is also not true. And it's not seen in class. Now, can you imagine? Now the students are at home. If you pitch the same thing that you pitched in class, the student with a very low academic background probably cannot understand whatever you have sent them. No, you didn't send them. You sent to the class. But the class now, like the billiard ball, has become separate entities. You know, has become separate entities. So you get an average. You kind of send the content to the class kind of on average. Yeah, maybe some even we talk about standard deviation. So there is an average mean. Okay, we look at mean. You look at mean on learner. They are not robots. They are people. So I give you a very silly example. I give you if 50 you are trying to select a runner for 100 meters for your school. Okay, if you have 50 runners who ran 100 meters at 10 seconds, and you have another 50 who ran at 11 seconds, your average will be 10.5. But nobody ran at 10.5. You see, so if you say, oh, the average speed of this group is 10.5, pick anyone. Well, I think you'll be heading for trouble if you pick the person who ran at 11 seconds, expecting he ran at 10.5 seconds. It's not going to happen. You know. So the same thing. If you pitch at the center point, there will be a gap between those who are running at 10 seconds and 11 seconds. Means you must now pitch for those people who run at 10 seconds and those people who run. Now your content must be pitched at both extremes. Those who perhaps you say has difficulty understanding, those who perhaps you say have no difficulty understanding. So your content now have to be pitched wider to take into account the slower learners and the faster learners. Learner who learn at a slow rate, learner who learn at a faster rate. Okay, and even language plays a major role because they may be slow learners, they may be slow readers, they may be fast readers. These are not transparent because in class, again, they can ask their friend, they can come to you, they can get clarification. Now, this thing doesn't exist anymore. Number third one, we assume that learners have the same knowledge retention rate. Why is it in an exam that some people can understand more, some people can understand less, can answer less? Because they have very different retention rates. And we assume that in class, like example in class, understand, okay, if one person answers understand, you assume everybody understand. That's not the case either. But again, this issue is not hidden because the learners still have mechanism to rectify the situation. They can still go and see you after class or find a clever person in class to have a discussion. And my point now it no longer exists. When the students are at home, you are reaching every individual learner. You are not reaching the class anymore. See, this becomes a big issue. Maybe not a big issue, but this is kind of something that must be you might be aware of this. Okay, I think this is obvious that you assume the learner have the same level of understanding of the content, the learner have the same concentration throughout the class. This is in class, they may concentrate or they may not concentrate, but they have a way of getting through it. But when they are at home, concentration goes to the sea. There's so much distraction at home. You have to tumbuk sambal for your mother, you have to go and do some shopping, you have to take care of your sibling, blah blah blah. This affects. So design of content and language of content plays a major role in terms of trying to, you have to second guess the student. They are in a very distractive environment. So how do you design and how do you actually kind of communicate with them? The other two is kind of, like I said, pretty obvious. The student can perform. We assume they can perform the same tasks. We can assume they have the same level. None of what we assume was true, but was not transparent to us in campus because there were mechanisms to remedy, mechanism to overcome. But when they are at home, they are alone. They have no lecture to find. They have no friends to consult. And if you give them something that they cannot understand, they're gonna be lost. So these are very big three interplay of the learning scenario that we are in now, the facilitation mechanism that we are faced now, and the learner themselves that we have to address on now what I say either a flexible or a personal capacity, because they are no longer bunched in a class paradigm. Next slide. I think I'm okay for time. I should finish by that. Okay, so this is another challenge because this is to add spice to your trouble. Not only do you have to do all this, you still have to inspire them, challenge them, excite them, engage them. I mean, you're not just going to deliver content just for the sake of deliver content. Where is the teachability? Where is the knowledge application, appreciation that you have to instill something that they can learn and replicate or apply? You have to engage them, captivate them. And at the same time, how you write should be motivate them and stimulate them. Wow, I'm glad I'm retired. But again, perhaps this is not the job of one man or one woman, one person. Now you can work as a group. I know how we discuss, how we inspire them. Different subject, it reaches the learner in a different way. Before we had all this internet, people learn by audio cassette. I used to hear to audiobook. I like audiobook. I find it so interesting. And I used to listen to drama on the radio when I was young. Fajar di Bumi Permata. I love that story. On radio alone, the intonation, the diction, the emotion can still be delivered through the radio. Some DJs, you wait to hear the DJ. They were so interesting. They were so exciting and engaging with the learner. You don't know who the hell they are. You can't even see them. So you can imagine the learner at home now to be that. You are the DJ trying to reach them. You have to stimulate them. You have to motivate them, captivate them, excite them with whatever you write, whatever you tell. Although if you send an audio cassette, if you send a podcast, or if you send something to some content through your mobile device or whatever the case may be. So these are still in the confines of we are supposed to do, and perhaps what the students are expecting from us as lecturers, from teaching institutions, so that they are empowered in terms of the knowledge, application, and appreciation for the whole the course in itself. Okay. Next slide, please, Tommy. I'm not sure. Okay. So there are so many mechanisms. This is just not exhaustive. This just supports us suggestive that where language play a major role, that you can also supplement. So it's like a tool that can also assist you to get to the learners in the different modality. Now you can use like a timeline software. You can use a video. I personally believe video is very powerful, but you must design it well, because video combines so many modalities. You got sound, you got motion, you got color, they got, it can be long, it can be short, it can be replayed, it can be still. So it's very powerful. You can use the concept of curation of portfolio, so where you can upload a lot of content. It can be easy content, difficult content, abstract content, concrete content. So you can address the whole spectrum of learners. On their own, they can choose, like the Tamim you talking about buffet. When you go to a hotel, they got a buffet there, so the student choose what they like first, and then they will progress to a more challenging, sinister-looking dish or whatever the case may be that's being presented to them. Yeah, so the facilitation must, it's a triangulation that's difficult to break. Where your scenario facilitation, your teaching facilitation, and the learner themselves. So it's a fatal combination of all those three, on top of you having to motivate and captivate them. But technology is there to assist you in a small way. Use of Padlet, collaborative tool. This is assuming learners have connectivity, but even if they don't, I think we can find a way to get to them. Okay, next slide. I think I'm almost done. Okay, I think I'm going to kind of digress a little bit, because like I said, I think you've heard me say this. Now it's like a summary. Now, first and foremost, whatever you send to them, it comes a reading test. That student may be the smartest student in the class, but he's a slow reader. He's not good with big words. You must keep it simple. They say kiss, I would say keep it simple. Sahabat lah, they say stupid, right? Say sahabat, keep it simple, sahabat. So because we can no longer use the class concept, where one class is assumed as one student, and we designing for the average means designing for no one. Like I give you the 100 meters, that if you're selecting anyone who's running at 10.5, nobody ran at 10.5. One batch ran at 10, one batch ran at 11, average of 10.5. But you select one at 10.5, nobody actually ran at 10.5. And the one who ran at 10 on an off day might run at 11. Okay, so now you have to pitch the language to edges, capture both limits, and capture the diversity of quote unquote languages, language for the blind, language for the deaf, language non-verbal language, icons. Even when you write, you can put icons, signposting. We call it signposting of homework or discussion. So the flexibility must come into play now, because we have now to personalize already, because the learners now have already been displaced from the institution. So we are kind of reaching them on a personal capacity. Okay, so this is my take on all of you. When you think about language, you play a very, very big role. Don't underestimate language, because it can be like that. Like this man who texted his friend, thank you for you letting me use your wife last night. He just misplaced WIFI and WIFE, and he created a war. So by one single spelling is enough to change everything. So be careful errors in spelling and.
Oh, you mean you borrow your Wi-Fi? Okay.
WIFI.
So misspell as borrow your wife.
WFE. So I became E. So I mean, perang lah. you know, well, if you look in context, is smart, but if you, this is like a joke, but you know, this just show have to be very precise with the spelling. It can create very different meaning. Okay, ada lagi tak? Is there something? I don't know. I think I'm done. I'm ready. 12:16. Cukup. 45 minutes. 1 minute over. I got 15 minutes for discussion. Inshallah. Okay. Thank you so much. Actually, I hope I've kind of reached you in some meaningful way from my because personally I have been involved in distance learning for 30 years. I'm face to face, so I can see. But that's why I personally can understand what is the commotion about remote teaching. What remote is not the point here. Remote is subjective. The whole issue here is the separation of the teacher and learner. You can be 1 kilometer, you can be 100 kilometers. Remote, what does it mean at all? You know, even if you are 1 kilometer, even if in USM, when you are having a video conference session, the students in USM are in another room. They're in the same location, but in another room. They're still separated from the teacher, even if when they are in the same place. So the whole point is to reach the learner who are not separated from you. It's not a matter of remoteness. You know, they can be next door, they can be 2 miles away, 10 miles away, 100 miles away. But they are separate. Once they are separated, then the pedagogical articulation, the language articulation will come into play to get the teaching material to them in an effective way, inshallah. Okay, shukran, thank you. If there's any question that I can entertain, or even any question from the chair himself.
Okay, thank you very much. Shukran jazilan wa jazakumullah khairal jaza, Prof. ROZHAN, for your insightful thoughts and sharing. So let me just allow me to read one of the questions from the audience, from Puan Suhaili Jalil. What is your view on OBE? OBE's feed to online teaching and learning during the pandemic and later endemic. Is personalization a feature? This is now more important than ever.
OBE itu apa ni? Outcome based. Outcome based.
Outcome based.
Yeah. It doesn't matter actually. It doesn't matter. Outcome based is basically conforming to your objective. Okay. So this is very clear. But even when okay, you can even add outcome-based learning to one of the learning buffet. Blended learning, outcome-based learning. So it's just to me, just semantic. But still, language play a major role in terms of the clarity, the detail, the instruction. You know, so I think it plays an equally important role. No matter what learning strategy you adopt, language is always there to mediate, to make things clear, learnable, and so that student can get what message, what competency, what skill that needs to be delivered to them. Inshallah. Yeah. I would say you're right. It plays an equally important role, crucial role, if you ask me.
Right. Let me check if there is a question from our YouTube. Okay, there is no question. Okay, while waiting for another responses and question. Do you still remember, Prof, in 2000 and I guess 2015 and 2018 when we visited New Delhi, India, and 2018 in Dhaka, Bangladesh, we consulted and we conducted a workshop there.
Yeah.
One question I asked you, if you still remember in the flight, okay, quote unquote in Malay lah, Prof, di sini tak ada teknologi, boleh je belajar, Prof. What is your take on this?
It's not the technology, there's the teaching. The teaching is done by you. You know, the technology assists certain things to make it clearer, to make it presented in different form. I give you, this is the example I always use. You watch a movie. The movie came from a book. It was the book first, and the movie, you must have the script. Have you read the movie script? Have you actually read the movie script? If you read the movie script, you're already playing the movie in your head. It's so interesting. I read the movie script. Oh my God, this is so interesting. You are actually really reliving what is being said in the script.
You already know what will happen in the next part.
But you see, in the movie is translation of the script. They came from the book.
Okay.
And from the book, you can have dramas, short plays, sketches. You can have whatever. So it's not the technology. It's kind of the whole content that, and not all need technology for delivery. Sometimes you yourself. That's why the classroom is called a lecture theatre. It's a theatre. You are the actor jumping and dancing in the classroom. I have a secondary school history teacher called Mr. Arul. I don't know this. I probably not alive anymore. He never carried a history book in the class, but I can remember his story until today. You know, his storytelling is fantastic. The dates, the event, the occasion, the occurrence is told in such a captivating manner without even him carrying any textbook. It's enough for him to deliver the history content. You know how boring history can be in class. You know, not about dates, but he found a way that he himself was able to deliver in a very captivating manner. And this is what it's supposed to be. It's not like the technology. It helps. It helps in certain way, especially now. It helps in disseminating knowledge, sharing of resources, but it does not take away the job of the teaching from the teacher. Okay.
Okay, Prof.
Hope that's
Thank you very much. Another question from Dr. Rami Aida. How can we personalize language teaching when attending to off-site teaching and learning?
Off-site?
How can we personalize language teaching when attending to off-site teaching and learning? That means it's a kind of face-to-face or asynchronous learning.
No. Why? When you say personalized, means you must know the person. Okay. If let's say, why do you go to a conference and sometimes at the bottom you write there dietary restriction? That is already personalization. So you need to know who cannot eat meat, who cannot eat chicken, who's vegetarian. So when you know, then you can address the issue. So my point is, if you know the learners, then you can teach the content in many different ways.
Assalamualaikum, Prof.
Yes,
sorry, I'm Dr. Rami Aida. It's not a matter of not knowing the learners or not. This is a matter of, yes, we know the learners,
okay,
but when it comes to off-site learning, where we cannot give recordings to students cannot attend online classes.
Okay.
Where, like in schools now, when they go for off-site learning, students would have to come to the school to collect their modules,
okay,
then go back. So we do know the individual barriers, for example, of the learners, but
okay,
how can language teachers prepare, say, for example, tasks for the students when the kind of learning is off-site, like that?
What type of learning? I'm lost. What type of learning are you talking about? Give me an example. What you're trying to teach them or convey to them?
It's a PDPR, Prof.
Okay. Okay. No. When I say you have to pitch your content to the extreme, and you have to take into account the weak learners, the learners who are slow readers, the learners who are difficult to. Okay, if you look at even UPSR, one of the biggest issue was not the fact that they cannot answer the question; they cannot understand the question. So it's not like I said, the genius boy bukan tak pandai, tapi he cannot even understand the task punya instruction.
I understand, Prof. It's just that for off-site learning, the teacher is not in front of them. This is especially for school teachers, where if they do consider learners' individual differences, but to prepare modules and tasks that caters to different needs of the learners when they are at home, because students just come to school to collect modules,
okay,
would the teacher's challenge would have to be like preparing different modules for different kinds of learners?
Not different modules. Okay.
So that's
okay,
what I mean. How can they do that?
I understand. Put it this way: you are not going to solve the problem overnight. So when you send some content to the learners, does it come back? If it comes back, you can see what's wrong with it. Then you can try to improve on it. Oh, I need to pitch this. Maybe these objective questions can be start with basic questions. They need to go basic level, intermediate level, advanced level. You cannot, if you, like I said, if you pitch at the average, you're going to lose the. If you pitch at 10.5, you're going to lose the 11 second runner. So you have to pitch lower. So this is an ongoing improvement process. Because let's say you send one back to the learner, what comes back, you can see from the learner's answer what's wrong, where can you improve, what can you do to alleviate that. So then next round you improve, and we must also sometimes ask feedback from the learner. What is it that they don't understand? So this is a process. It's a two-way process. Okay, you can ask for feedback. What more do you want? How can I help you make me understand? And if you ask me, this can be research in itself. I mean, teaching is a quote unquote experimental exploration. Is getting better all the time. But getting better all the time, you must go through this process of experimentation. You must get feedback from the learner. Sometimes we go to the exam board. We say, oh, the student did not answer this fully. After 10 years, we see those student cannot answer. Kenapa student cannot answer? What have you done to alleviate that part of to that student can answer? So now you get feedback from the learner. You can, from the learner's answer, you can see what is it they probably don't understand. So you can act on it and maybe give more examples, more pictures, more something so that they understand. Because we talk about the learner preferences, but do we address the learner preferences, the visual learner, itu basic lah. Not to talk about all the multiple intelligence and all the other learning preferences. So again, for the teacher now become a quote unquote a learning task again, to how to reach, and like I said, use it as an experiment, get feedback from the learners, and try to improve the content as you go along. Inshallah, I don't, like I said, it's not going to be solved overnight. But we're saying that kita dekat 2 tahun dah COVID kot. I mean, come this March, will be 2 years in COVID, you know. So what have we done in the last 2 years to actually improve something? Or we still waiting for it to go back to normal, waiting, and it's never going to go back to normal. I even asked Dr. Hamimi, we should be going to full ODL already now, because there is no, if schools, if there is COVID, close, then open, COVID, close. Sama bila nak close, open, and there is no safety net. There is no buffer, there is no safety net. Padahal it's already 1.5 years in COVID. We should have some kind of safety net already, some kind of plan B, C, D. You know, so if COVID close, also never mind, students can still study, and the content keep on improving. And at the end of the day, even if COVID goes away, we have so much new resources, so diverse type of lesson design and pedagogy. So like I say, it's not gonna be solved in overnight, but it's a process in itself. Okay, I hope that answered the question. Panjang macam apa? Jangan lecture pula. Okay,
okay, Prof. Tak apa. Okay, Prof. Right. So I think there's no more question.
Okay. I pun already 12:29. 1 more minute.
1 more minute. Okay. So let me just ask one very simple question, Prof. Technology is innocent.
Yep.
Okay, technology is innocent. Some of people, they blame on technology do this and do that. You are the one who control technology. So technology is innocent. Yeah. We as a human, we control technology. Yeah. And the other thing is they call it quote unquote technology is disruptive. So how can we use our lesson plan, pedagogy, and by all means to disrupt the disruption? How do we disrupt the disruption, Prof?
But who does the disruption? Who does the disruption? The technology cannot do anything to you. Like I said, some lecturers say, "Oh, classroom teaching is boring. Teaching using technology is interesting." I ask them, who made the class boring? Who made the use technology interesting? Same person. So why do you make a classroom boring? Because it's not what you want that technology to. It's what do you want technology to be assisting you to do this. If you use it in a destructive manner, of course it will be disruptive. If you use it in a non-destructive, the knife is in your hand. You cannot blame the knife, because the knife will follow you can either rob a bank, you can do fruit carving, one is So
Yeah, a fool with a tool, still a fool.
yeah. Full is the tool, still full. Yeah. No. I don't think we can blame technology because we worked like distance learning was functioning without technology. When I started work, there was no internet, there was no handphone, there was no fax machine, there was nothing. They were just relying on text, film strips, audios, videos, and it was good enough technology. Then now technology can make it better. Not to disrupt, better. So those who have disruptive minds will always be disruptive. But if the focus is on kind of the learnability, you kind of pitch the like you want to bake a cake, you find the tool to bake a cake. You don't take a screwdriver to bake a cake. It's simple as that. You to repair a car, you cannot take a blender to bake. You use the tool appropriately. How can it be disruptive? I see no sense in that accusation. Anyway, that's me. Okay.
Okay, Prof. Thank you very much. So I think 12:30 already on the dot. So I think most of the participants, they have more questions, but where to reach Prof. ROZHAN, rozhan@gmail.com.
Sure.
You can find it on Facebook, ROZHAN and IDRUS, or you can find it on the net, rozhanidrusprof.com. So thank you very much again, Prof. We hope to see you again. We will invite you in our several colloquium or discussion.
Shukran. Okay.
So let us adjourn our session, our keynote session number 2 for 2000 iLEC 2001. We would like to thank all the participants for being with us for this session. Let us adjourn our session by reciting Kafaratul Majlis was Suratul As. Okay, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. So we have completed our keynote speaker session and we will resume the parallel session 5 at 2 p.m. Thank you.